That being said, let's get started. I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Nadine Blaney, Executive Director with Fort Air Partnership. Nadine, over to you.
Thank you, Sheena. I'm just going to share my screen here. All right. Okay, so thank you for giving me time on the agenda today to provide you with an update on the Fort Air Partnership. Before I get into details about our organization, though, I just want to take a minute to talk about air quality monitoring in Alberta. So air quality monitoring in Alberta is done via air sheds. It's a bit different than in the rest of the country. It's pretty specific to Alberta. So we currently have 10 air sheds operating in the province, and Fort Air Partnership is one of those. And collectively, we operate 88 continuous air monitoring stations and hundreds of small sensor monitors. So the airshed model has been very successful here. It's been in place for about 30 years. Success is due to a number of reasons. One of these is that we are place-based, so we provide local oversight over air quality monitoring and reporting. All airsheds have scientific advisory committees that are composed of very experienced people from the public, industry, and government that oversee monitoring activities. We are all collaborative, multi-stakeholder organizations, and we make decisions via consensus. We're all very engaged in the communities in which we operate, and we believe in open and transparent sharing of information. We're also very responsive to local public and stakeholder needs with regards to air quality information, and we have sustainable committed funding through our funding partners. So specific to FAP then, as I mentioned, we're independent multi-stakeholder. We began monitoring in 2000. We have participation from the public, from all three levels of government, so municipal through Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association, provincial through Alberta Environment and Protected Areas, as well as Alberta Health Services, and then federal through Environment and Climate Change Canada. And then industry participates through the Northeast Capital Industrial Association. So our mission is to operate a regional network to monitor and report credible and comprehensive ambient air quality information. This is a map of our region. We currently cover 4,500 square kilometers, and that encompasses most of the industrial heartland. We operate 10 continuous monitoring stations. Those are indicated by the yellow circles on the map, and they monitor for 18 different substances and weather conditions 24/7. We also have 16 passive monitoring sites, and those are indicated by the orange diamonds on the map, and those provide us with monthly averages of hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide. And then we recently began adding purple air sensors to our network. So those are indicated by the purple triangles on the map, and those give us real-time fine particulate matter data. So just a bit more information about each of those monitoring methods then. So the continuous monitoring stations, on the right-hand side there, that's an example of one of our stations. And so those operate 24/7 and provide hourly real-time data. And that data is streamed directly to our live data site for anyone to access within an hour of being collected. It is important to note that that data is not yet validated because it is done in real time. So once the data is validated at the end of each month, it is sent to the provincial air data warehouse where all of the air quality data for the province sits. So this is the data that's used to compare to provincial and federal air quality objectives and to make decisions on managing air quality. It's also used by the government to calculate an air quality health index, which is a general measure of air quality as it pertains to human health. Passive monitoring, on the other hand, is quite a bit more simple and less precise. So it's a filter-based method. It doesn't require power. Basically, we take the filters out, we send them to a lab for analysis at the end of every month, and it provides us with monthly averages for hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide. And so because it is a less precise monitoring method, it's more of a qualitative indicator to determine if there are any upward trends of these substances in an area and need for future monitoring. The purple air monitors, they, as I mentioned, measure for fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, which is an important component of the AQHI. And this is because these are fine particles that can travel into a person's lungs and cause health issues, especially for people with pre-existing respiratory or cardiovascular conditions. So we've decided to place these sensors in communities that don't currently have continuous monitoring stations to provide the communities with information, especially during wildfire season. And so again, it's less precise than the continuous station monitors, but they do provide a qualitative measurement of PM that's helpful for the public. And while it doesn't meet government standards for making regulatory decisions or issuing air quality advisories, it's still a very useful piece of information. So I mentioned the Air Quality Health Index. So we have 7 stations in our network that collect the data required to calculate an AQHI. And so that includes substances that are known to affect health. So ozone, fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide. And then because we have an oil and gas sector in Alberta, we also include sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. So it's rated on a scale of 1 to 10 plus, 1 being very low risk, 10 plus being very high risk. And then there's health messaging associated with each risk level. So all of that information can be found on our website as well as the Alberta Health Services website. So results then from last year for the AQHI at the 7 stations within our network. We saw air quality being in the lowest category for an average of 84% of the time across the network for the year. And then in the moderate risk category, approximately 14% of the time, and the high or very high risk category, just under 4% of the time. And so the times that we were in the high or very high risk category, 95% of those incidents were due to wildfire smoke. Last year, we had quite a severe wildfire season. And then the 5%, the remaining 5% were due to wintertime temperature inversions, which is a weather condition where a layer of cool air traps warm air beneath it and effectively traps pollutants at ground level, which leads to increased levels of fine particulate matter and increased AQHI ratings. In comparison, in 2022, we had a much less severe wildfire season, and we were in the lowest category 94% of the time. So quite a big difference there. And then just a few projects that we're working on. So we have a portable air monitoring station. We use that to move throughout the network to deal with emerging issues or gaps in the network. We just recently completed a project in Newbrook at the end of January. So we'll be releasing a summary report this spring. And then we are in the process of moving the station to Thorhild. And so we'll start operating that in March for a 1-year-long monitoring project there. We are reinitiating our school programs. So we're partnering with Inside Education to deliver air quality sessions to grade 5 classes in our region. And as part of that, we will be promoting installation of purple air sensors at the schools as an ongoing education tool for the students. We are also releasing a data trending and comparison report this year. So this was initially done, the first go around was in 2019, and we had committed to updating it every 5 years. Basically, the report provides a summary of annual average trends of 5 substances that affect air quality, including fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and ozone. And it compares annual averages of those substances at Fort Saskatchewan with locations across Canada and internationally. And then lastly, we have an annual photo contest that we call the Fresh Air Experience. It's for FAP residents. It's available through Facebook and Instagram, and just helps us raise awareness of Fort Air Partnership and local air quality by people submitting photos of themselves enjoying an outdoor experience in the airshed. And those are just a few of our winning entries over the past few years. And if you're interested in learning more about the Fort Air Partnership, you can go to our website to access our live data feed, any of our reports. We also have an e-newsletter that you can sign up for. So that's goes out about every month. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram feeds that you can access. And then there's also a link to download the WeatherCan app, which is a federal app that, in addition to weather, also provides information on air quality and the AQHI in your region. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me at any time. My email is at the bottom of the slide. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nadine. Next, I'd like to introduce Pembina Pipeline's Business Development Lead, Matthew O'Regan. Over to you.
Thanks, Nadine. Nice to meet everyone or listen to everyone on the call today. Hopefully you can see the screen. So Pembina Pipeline is a diversified and integrated midstream company. Really our role is to move hydrocarbons from production areas to end markets. And that applies for liquid hydrocarbons to gaseous hydrocarbons. We have an asset base that spans most of Western Canada, with some particular assets in the Heartland area around our Redwater complex. Our goal is really to connect Canadian energy to global markets and help power the world. So big focus for Pembina when we're operating our assets and developing new projects is really our stakeholders. And that encompasses 4 groups. We have customers, we have our investors, employees, and communities. We hope to be the employer of choice for people. We want to be a tier 1 operator. Safety is paramount to us in the communities that we operate. And we want to deliver positive impact. It's important that people think of Pembina as being an ideal tenant and a part of that community where we are, but as well driving financial performance for our investors as well. So environment, social, and governance aspects of operating a business are really in focus in the past few years. And this is an area that I can say Pembina has definitely made strides to improve upon. A big focus for us has been equity, diversity, and inclusion, trying to increase representation of various groups in our workforce, our management, as well as our board of directors. You can see some of our targets that we have publicly and where we are today relative to those targets. As well, a big aspect is improving emissions throughout our operations. So we have a target to reduce our emissions intensity by 30% by 2030. So for us, that means improving upon how we operate assets. Some of that's incremental, some of that is larger projects, finding ways to source cleaner power for some of our assets, including through wind and solar, investing in lower carbon energy, as well as products, so things like carbon capture and utilization and storage, as well as ammonia, which I'll profile a little later. And another aspect of our business, which we're quite proud of, is some of our Indigenous partnerships. Economic reconciliation is a big focus within Canada, and we have some notable partnerships with one being the Heartland Nation in our Cedar project. It's a liquefied natural gas project on the west coast of Canada that would move gas to Asian markets. And the Heartland Nation is the majority owner in that project with Pembina. So I think when you think of Pembina, our management as well as our employees always have a major focus on our values. We want to be a safe operator. We want to be trustworthy and respectful with the groups that we interact with, collaborative, especially in the communities we operate, and then entrepreneurial. We want to find new growth markets, new businesses that we can succeed in for our stakeholders. And so for us, that really means a focus on finding ways to decarbonize our existing business, be better with what we have today, find ways to invest in the energy transition. So that can be new types of commodities, new types of energies. For another aspect is to meet global demand. So finding export options for Canadian energy, and especially the products that we move and touch for our customers in Canada. And then lastly, we want to set ourselves, we tend to think that Pembina is a great operator and a good developer of projects. And so finding ways to support our customers in unique ways, develop unique solutions is definitely a focus for us. So two projects that I wanted to profile today for you. One is the Alberta Carbon Grid. This is a joint venture between Pembina and TC Energy. We're looking to jointly develop a CO2 transport and sequestration pipeline system. So it's similar to what we do today with crude and natural gas liquids, but we're just moving a different commodity, and that commodity is CO2. It'd be an open access system that would start in the Heartland area near Redwater, and we would go and sequester CO2 about 85 kilometers north of that site. We think there's great geology in Alberta. It's an existing industry, and so we're looking to expand into that area. And we successfully drilled an appraisal well in 2023, and we continue to move forward with development. And so, thinking about the Heartland, there are a lot of industrial facilities in that area. The Alberta Carbon Grid is a project that could help not only Pembina assets decarbonize, but some of the other operators in the area as well. And the second project that Pembina has been actively developing that would have an impact into the Heartland area is our low carbon ammonia project. This is a project with a partner of ours, Marubeni Corporation, out of Japan. We're looking to take natural gas produced in Western Canada and transform that into clean hydrogen and then ultimately ammonia. We'll look to export that off the west coast of Canada and into Japan and Korean markets. And they're using that clean fuel as a way to help decarbonize how they produce power and, power industry within those markets. And so for us, we think this is an exciting project. It's a further demonstration of us taking Canadian energy, finding ways to transform it and upgrade it and help meet global demand. And I think the unique thing about this project is, it does have carbon capture. It's extremely clean energy, but would also be a major development within the Heartland area with a lot of employment opportunities. And so, it's something we feel quite excited about. And so this is a project where we're in the process of completing our pre-feed, and hopefully in the coming months, we'll take further steps to continuing engineering and development. So I'd like to thank the group for listening to the presentation. Welcome any questions.
Thanks for your update, Matthew. And again, if anyone has any questions on either Matthew's presentation or Nadine's, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A chat box, and we will be able to answer them at the end of all of our presentations. So we'll now hear from Brendan Curley, VP Heartland Operations for Inter Pipeline.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, I have a bit of an itch in my throat. Maybe I was yelling too hard at the Oilers game last night. I'm not sure. So if I mute for a second, I apologize. So if we get started on the first slide, there may be forward-looking statements within what I say in the presentation. So this is just really legal jargon, I'll call it, and we'll leave it at that. I don't expect anyone to read through it, but if there are forward-looking statements, they aren't necessarily basis in fact. So, Inter Pipeline business, we have a significant presence in the Heartland region. Our business is made up of 4 segments in the region. So we've got transportation, facilities, infrastructure, marketing, and Heartland, which is the new facility that I'm responsible for. Within the region specifically, what we have is the Redwater olefinic fractionator, which Pembina was just speaking. They operate on our behalf. We have the Heartland Petrochemical Complex, which is just right beside Dow and in between Dow and Shell. And then we have our pipeline control room in Sherwood Park. Our pipelines span mainly in Alberta, kind of under the headline of Inter Pipeline, doing transportation of oil products and gas in Alberta mainly. We have over 400 employees in the region, so this is something that we're really proud of, and would bring me into our next slide. as an employer in the region, it's really important for us to be involved in our community. We as employees live here and we work here, and our involvement in the community is something that our employees take pride in, and we do a lot in the region to give back to the communities within which we operate. So we've donated over, well, close to $4 million in 2023. We have partnerships with the Kids Cottage Apple Schools, so we do backpacks there, Missing Children Society, and the Rob Nash Project. Skills Alberta, so we do a lot there. I've been out presenting at a few different Skills Alberta where we partner with trying to trade initiatives there, showing students what industry can look like for them and what future careers might look like. Women Building Futures, so again, diversity into the workforce. Trying to grow women in trades is very important to us, and something that we're really working towards here to build that diversity in. 54 student towards, so we do have a scholarship program where we try to support those that are trying to enter industry and be part of businesses like ours. And then we do have some corporate sponsorships, such as the Alberta Junior Hockey League. So big piece of pride for us here. I could speak to right in the local community. I live in Fort Saskatchewan. We've done a lot with the food bank there as well. So really something we take pride in, to be involved in the community that we work in. Indigenous engagement. So this has been, I would say, a big focus for us, and something that we're working hard towards, which is our Indigenous relationships. So we are looking at combined business opportunities. We have a few with specific nations that we haven't named here, but we've entered into several agreements related to how we do business, and trying to find partnerships to really further our indigenous relationships and engagement and business opportunities that are co-beneficial for our Indigenous communities and for our business. We're really trying to show up with those communities and learn about the communities so that we can understand how we can best help them, but then also engage with them and build those opportunities together. So we've attended a lot of events. And I think the big thing is the relationship agreements we've been working towards, which really sets a basis for how we can engage and what business opportunities might exist between ourselves and the Indigenous counterparties that we're working with there. And it's different in each region, as we have pipelines that cross many regions, and we have our facilities which sit in regions that are very close to singular nations. So it's a pretty diverse program for us, and something that we're working hard to grow right now. So really proud of the effort we had last year with our Indigenous engagement. And then finally, with our new facility at Heartland here, for those that don't know what the facility does, it creates polypropylene plastic. That plastic is then shipped to various producers that make all sorts of things, from car dashes to vinyl plank flooring to diaper materials, you name it. Our plastic gets used in just a variety of end user products. As part of that, we have entered into a lot of associations to both understand and work to minimize our waste. So we are part of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. We are part of the Plastics Alliance of Alberta. So those are two big ones that are kind of on the provincial and global scale. And then we also have this partnership we call PREA, which is Plastics Research in Action, which as part of our build, we partnered with the government and NATE, and we fund back into NATE for research. So examples, and it brings three of the things we've talked about here today together. We've done things like trialing plastics and asphalt, and actually use that in paving on our site, and partnered with Indigenous communities to do that paving. So we have NATE involved with the research on it, Indigenous communities involved with the build of it, and are learning different ways that we might limit the plastic waste that exists in society. And then the final piece is really around the Chemistry Industrial Association of Canada, so CIAC as we call it. And that's another piece where we learn from our peers what they're doing and advocate accordingly to various parties on what we need to do about plastic waste and how we move forward in society. So suffice to say, we're involved in a lot of places to stay sustainable in the operations that we do have, with a big focus on the plastic piece right now, given the facility that we've just started up in the last few years here. So with that, just a little tour of the facility that I'll let play, and I might add comments as it goes. The laboratory for the facility. The lab does all the plastic testing, water testing, gas testing. See the new building here. Central utility block provides power and steam for the facility. Okay, so I was told you couldn't really hear me trying to speak there, so I stopped. But if you have any questions about the facility, more than happy to take those. And if you have any questions about Inter Pipeline's operations in the region, also happy to take those.
All right. Thanks, Brendan, for your update. And again, we'll be able to get to anyone's questions after our last presentation. So finally, we have Teresa St. John, EHS Manager for Chemtrade Logistics. Over to you.
Perfect, thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Like mentioned, my name is Teresa. I started at Chemtrade in October as the EHS manager, so a lot of you are probably still very new to me. We wanted to get on here and give a brief overview of who we are, what we do, and important things to keep in mind in operating around us. I know we are a very heavy industrial park, so a lot of us are in similar situations. Chemtrade operates a diversified business providing industrial chemicals and services to customers in North America and around the world. We do have sites everywhere, but specifically 2 in Fort Saskatchewan, our CSC site, which is a water chemical and acid loading site, and our sulfite site, which is an H2S producing pipeline. It is located within the city of Fort Sask. We are fairly close. The sulfide site is the focus of the presentation today. They produce and store carbon disulfide and liquid hydrogen sulfide. Our emergency planning zone is 2.28 kilometers. This has been sent out in the past to public in the newspaper and with public notifications, just to make sure everyone is aware of the ECB and the emergency response procedures for it. Hydrogen sulfide is our main product. We all know it is very flammable. It is a toxic inhalation hazard. It is the biggest concern at the sulfide site. We do have a very large rail car. That would be our worst case scenario if it failed. Our most credible scenario would just be hydrogen sulfide leaking from a valve on the rail car. We don't anticipate to ever have large case spills or leaks from the rail car or our processes. The second one is a byproduct of hydrogen sulfide, which is carbon disulfide. It's a volatile organic solvent. It has a low flash point. We also have a very large rail car of this on site. It is 81 tons. This would be our worst case scenario for the entire contents to be lost. However, the most credible scenario is the release from a leaking transfer hose or a pump failure during transfer to a different rail car or a tanker truck. Again, very low probability of this occurring. We have taken quite a few of the engineering controls to ensure that this does not happen. The big intent of the presentation today is to make you aware of what we're doing, but also for new developments, and to make anyone in this area knowledgeable of new developments that are really popping up recently and what their requirements need to be. Chemtrade is a responsible care company. We have a commitment to our communities that we reside in to maintain safe and efficient operations. It is our main goal to carry out these obligations and keep every person and every part of the public safe. This includes updating our emergency response plans, which are then submitted to the Fort Saskatchewan Fire Department and the EnerCare system. We conduct quality risk analysis on new developments or other concerns that pop up in our area, just to see what the impact of our releases would be on them. We do community outreach and educate the public on the risks associated with H2S. We are currently making an amendment to our pipeline license. It's a correction to the record. Nothing is changing as per operations or the way that the pipeline has been in use since the late 1960s. But because we want to do a correction to the record, it does require us to do a public involvement participation, aka PIP activity, required by the AER. This is an opportunity for any residents, new developments, or businesses to raise concerns regarding the pipeline and site operations. We have done this before. We don't anticipate having any concerns stem from the Fort Saskatchewan residents or businesses in that area. We are a little more concerned about the newer developments that are within our setbacks or are building very close to the industrial park in general. So public notifications, we send out pamphlets every 2 years or if major changes are made. In general, if anyone has any questions or concerns, I highly recommend you contact me or the plant manager. We're happy to have those discussions. We do our tabletop drills twice a year. We do one for either propane or hydrogen sulfide. And then every 3 years, we do a full mob drill with the city and our care and the agencies that we wish to participate. All that information will be made available afterwards as to corrective actions, how it went, anything that you guys need to know as people that are around us. Big one is new developments. We do require a 500-meter setback as per AER regulations. If you guys are participating in new developments, know people who are developing anything like that, please encourage them to develop an emergency response plan that addresses chemical release scenarios, not just from sulfides if they're in close proximity, but from any of the industrial areas or businesses in the Fort Saskatchewan zone, just because it's not just us that could potentially harm people in close areas. Building design, really consider shelter in place requirements, follow the MIA-CC risk criteria for land use, and we do ground truthing exercises. We heavily encourage everyone to participate in those and provide feedback as needed. That's it for me, really just an overview of what we're doing, our license amendment, and what we should be aware